Hello to you all on this gloriously sunny Tuesday afternoon. I hope you're all doing very well and not reeling from last night's revelations and expose about the Duchess of Sussex, of course, and her long-suffering experience at the hands of the royal family, the firm, however you may choose to see it. I haven't really been paying attention, to be quite honest, about all that's going on in Harry and Meghan's world regarding them exiting their royal duties. It wasn't really of interest to me, I have to be honest. And like a lot of people, I was thinking, what the heck was she thinking or expecting, getting involved with such an establishment? I mean, this is Great Britain after all. And the majority of the British public are royalist, even if they don't want to admit it, and aren't really going to welcome with open arms an outsider like herself. Plus, I just didn't feel the need to just support her simply because she's a woman of colour. I had no real insight into who she was, how she viewed her mixed heritage, how she had identified herself as. I really wasn't paying much attention. However, when I did sit up and start to take notice, I realised she was a woman with a black mother who seemed quite grounded in who she was, what she represented, and what she stood for. She had a relatively successful career. She's an American, but she definitely had an undeniable presence and strength that could leave certain individuals that are not as evolved slightly intimidated. But with all that being said, was she being naive, trying to fit into a role that wasn't ever going to be a success? A role that wasn't ready to adapt to such a formidable woman, a brown woman? Most definitely. Whether this is me being cynical or me just being realistic, Meghan had no chance of ever winning this fight and had set herself up, unfortunately, for failure simply by being who she was. Of course, the fairy tale ideology was what she was hoping for, that the royal family would embrace her with open arms and the British public would just accept her for her beauty, charisma, and her ease at being assimilated into such a system. They probably did to start with, but what I noticed from the jump was Meghan Markle had a fire in her belly. She was definitely no shrinking violet. Therefore, to be told she had to be less than who she was never going to end well for anybody. Obviously, she suspected this in the end, hence her speedy exit from the charade.
That irony of the last 4 years is I've advocated for so long for women to use their voice, and then I was silent.
Were you silent or were you silenced?
The latter.
I mean, how difficult must that experience have been for her? After listening to the interview, I could really feel the emotion behind it all. Forming any new relationship is difficult at the best of times. Trying to fit into a new family can be a task and an uphill struggle for anyone. But knowing you're not only having to deal with the family alone, but a nation of patronising individuals that viewed her as less than who she was simply because she decided to step into a role that was going to be impossible for her to fulfill. I mean, obviously the firm missed a trick with this one. they could have given the royal family a new light and used the Duchess as an instrument for change. But obviously that wasn't their vibrational vision. Therefore, their true colours would always prevail. Now, who does this portray as the Progressive Party? Definitely not the royal family or the firm. I guess in my opinion they're the same thing. The Queen definitely gets a say in everything that takes place in her world, and I'm sure her family's world too. Should Meghan have forfeited her mental health and just accepted this is the way it's always been? Even though they admitted, there was a disproportionate amount of bad press where she was concerned. I mean, when have there ever been a mixed heritage princess for them to measure how this is always supposed to be? This is a very unique situation, and it should have definitely been dealt with in a very unique way. The fact that she was encouraged to accept that her demonizing and the galvanizing of hate and racist comments at the hands of the British press had nothing to do with the black undertones is absurd. Obviously her inner light shone too bright for less radiant individuals, and this was a way to put her in her place, demean her, and basically silence her voice. Thank goodness for her life experience and her belief systems. A less assured woman would definitely have crumbled under all that pressure and just basically suffered in silence, leading to God knows what.
Look, I was really ashamed to say it at the time, and ashamed to have to admit it to Harry especially, because I know how much loss he suffered. But I knew that if I didn't say it, that I would do it, and I just didn't want to be alive anymore.
I mean, I don't know Meghan personally, obviously, but I do recognise when someone has reached the end of their tether and feels they have no other choice but to stand up for themselves and fight for their corner in the face of tyranny. I'm sure we've all can recollect a situation where we've had to really dig deep and say, okay, I tried it your way, haven't received any help, support, or empathy. Therefore, I have no other choice but to do it my way. Those famous words by Frank Sinatra. I mean, how can you verbalise to your employers that you're not doing very well in the position you've been employed in and are met with no assistance, no support, no concern or even compassion? I guess what they're saying to Meghan in no uncertain terms is, if you don't like your job, then just leave. Sling your hook. No sacrilegious land for you, Meghan. Nobody should sacrifice themselves for other people's plight, or just to stay in a role that's in alignment with your status. No way, it's not worth it. Meghan chose to save herself rather than wait for anyone else to save her. I think she's street smart. She's obviously had life experience and lived from real experiences. It takes a very brave person to admit that their mental health has been affected by a situation and that they are feeling unstable. Especially when they're such a public figure. the connotations, can you imagine? They're life-changing for that person. And even more so because the same said thing can be used against them in the future. I don't know why it could be taken lightly. So what is the gain? What was she trying to achieve by making it up according to certain people? It doesn't make sense. This is going to be attached to her forever. There is definitely no gain from this. It just comes from a place of honesty and transparency. I guess what they weren't expecting was that Prince Harry would be the rock for his wife and his family. You know, him being the all-seeing and all-hearing party that is privy to all the inside things that are said in private, both the good and the bad, would inevitably make him discern and say, okay, enough is enough. There were racial undertones involved in this. Obviously, he has no doubt about this, otherwise he would not be in support of his wife. Why would he throw his own family under the bus if there weren't any truth in all of this? He knew firsthand because he himself was being penalised for the choices he had made. By them stripping away his financial benefits as a royal, and of course removing the security that he's always been used to, lets him know that he's also in the doghouse. And please don't get me started on this change of protocol issue regarding Meghan and Archie, now that they've forfeited their royal duties. How absurd. I mean, all I can say is, Meghan Markle, you're dread. How you've maintained your dignity and stayed in your truth throughout and wasn't prepared to lose yourself and your vision of what you sought for your family is totally commendable. I mean, you've definitely helped Prince Harry also to find himself and become the man he has always meant to be. The father, the protector. Yeah. Something his father unfortunately couldn't do for his mum. He's learnt from the past. Truth is truth. So yeah, on that note, I'll say more power to you both. Such a major revelation. But on that note, I will leave it there. Have an enjoyable rest of your day. And ta-da!